Well, good morning. I would think you could do better than that. This is Chicago, right? Good morning. Thank you very much. Good morning. Well, industry challenges and opportunities. And certainly there's plenty of challenges in the construction industry. But I would also suggest that maybe if we have the right perspective, there certainly could be a lot of opportunities as well. So first off, I found this quote kind of interesting to start off our discussion this morning. Winston Churchill says, "A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty." Here's what I would ask you to think about is, I know plenty of business people. I work with a lot of business owners in what I do on a day-to-day basis. And I find a lot of them get overwhelmed by all of the challenges that come with owning a business, never mind the challenges that come with this industry in particular. But at the same time, I've also noticed there's a good number of business owners who actually take advantage of, embrace those challenges, and find ways to perhaps differentiate themselves. Find ways to maybe find the silver lining in the challenges that exist out there. And that's what I'd like to talk about this morning, is how do we turn those challenges into opportunities, things that make our lives better, make our customers' lives better, our employees' lives better, and then I guess as a whole we would make society better for all of us if we could all do that together. Small group today, so hopefully that's something that you will have an advantage of this morning that the folks that maybe aren't here this morning won't necessarily get to think about in the same ways that we will as we share our time together this morning. Schema. Does anybody in the room know this term, schema? Has anybody heard of this? Schema? No. You know, I see a few hands, but not many. This is what I find as I ask about this word. Not too many people know about it, and I think it's actually an interesting concept to think about. Once I introduce it to people, I tend to find that they use this word quite often. So schema is our way of interpreting the world around us. But here's the key about schema. Schema comes from experience, not just from knowledge. You can read a book and have knowledge, but without actually trying, without experiencing whatever you've learned, you don't necessarily have schema. So here's what I would suggest. Some of you might take a set of plans. You would look at that set of plans maybe 15, 20 seconds, and then you would set those plans down and you would say to yourself one of two things. You might say to yourself, you know what, that's a great set of plans. I would really like to work on that project. On the other hand, in that same 15, 20 seconds, you might say to yourself, you know what, there's no way in heck I'm going to be able to build from that plan. Right? Just looking at it, right? You might not even be able to explain yet why it is you feel you can't build from those plans, but you know from your schema, from your experience, that you're right. Right? How many of you have experienced schema then? How many of you have seen that? Yeah. So how about this? Schema though, how about, sir, do you know how to use a skill saw? No, I didn't think so, right? So I bet you there's a few people in the room though that know how to use power tools, right? So how about this? If we sat him down in front of a YouTube video on how to use a skill saw, you think he'd be good to go after watching the video? No way in heck, right? He's going to have to experience it. What do you think's going to happen the first time he pulls the trigger on that skill saw? He's going to vibrate away, right? Do you think the video is really going to be able to explain to him what it's going to feel like to have that machine spinning in his hand? No, and then what about the first time he runs into a bind when he's trying to cut something? Is he going to have any idea what it's really like or what it's going to feel like for that to happen? Probably not, right? So that's schema. It takes experience for things to click with us, right? Think about it. They actually know today that human beings or some kind of humanoid existed when the dinosaurs were around. They actually have figured that out, right? So imagine a caveman might go down a trail, see a dinosaur, and from his schema, he says, you know what, last time I went down that trail and saw that guy, it was a bad scene. I'm going the other way this time. Right? So our schema helps us quickly assess situations, right? Make decisions very quickly. Thankfully, the human race has schema. That's one of the reasons why we still exist. But here's the other thing, though. Sometimes our schema can get in the way of maybe allowing new ways of looking at things, right? If something doesn't fit in our box, it doesn't fit within the schema that we know, we're hesitant. Again, that's human nature. Maybe one of the reasons why we're alive today, right? Because we think before we do. At the same time, what I would ask this morning is maybe could you not let your schema get in the way of maybe seeing things in a different way? Maybe entertaining new ways of looking at some of the things that we'll talk about this morning? And then all I can ask is that some of the things that I maybe bring up today, that you would try those things. Gain the schema. Does it work for you? Does it make sense? Or perhaps should you stick with the way you were doing things? That's all I ask, right? I'm not here to tell you that you're doing something wrong, right? What I'm hoping to do is I'm hoping to offer you opportunities, new ways of looking at things as you go forward with your business. Here are the 4 things that I want to cover today. There's plenty of opportunities, plenty of challenges in our industry, but here's the 4 that I thought I would concentrate on this morning. So first off, many consumers and contractors, unfortunately, have what I would call a commodity mentality. How many people in the room would agree with that? That commodity mentality. Okay, so a good number of you. The second one, I'd like to talk a little bit about the shortage of workers in our industry, right? What about that shortage of workers, and what can we potentially do about that? The third is the lack of what I would call forward-thinking leadership and management within the industry. Sure, it exists all over our country, right? It's a challenge in any industry. But I'd like to talk specifically this morning about this industry. And the fourth one would be government regulations. How many of you in the room look forward to new government regulations? Few of you? Well, interesting then. Maybe you've already found opportunity in those regulations. So those are the 4 that we'll address this morning. All right, so another quote maybe to help us set the table here. Thomas Edison said, "We often miss opportunity because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work." Addressing challenges in our industry is definitely going to take work. Going to have to put the overalls on, strap on the tool belt, maybe do something about it. But what I would like to tell you, though, is if you think about it, if you put the right energy in the right places to address these challenges, how about this? Could those challenges be less of a concern to you and your business? And how about this? Could you actually turn them into opportunities to help you make more money? Help you and maybe other people make more money by how you address those challenges. So the first one, a commodity mentality. If the customer doesn't recognize any difference between what you do and what your competition does, why would they pay any more? Right? I mean, think about it, gasoline. Right, yeah, I've got a 64 Impala SS. I treat that car really well and I put super gas in it, right? But how much gas do I put it in a year? Maybe a couple $100. But my pickup truck, it's gas, right? We think of it as a commodity. So how many of you were around maybe during the early 90s when the generic foods were available in the grocery stores? You were there, you saw them? Right? Do you remember, what is it they said about those generic foods? Do you recall?
Just as good as the name brand.
That's right. They said they're just as good as the name brand. And do you remember, why did they say they could sell it to us so cheaply?
Because the same producers, no advertising.
Right. So it's the same exact thing they said as the name brands. But you know what? They can sell it to us cheaper because they don't do any fancy advertising, right? And they cut back on the marketing, right? No marketing, no fancy labels. Is anybody seeing these groceries in the store anymore? No, right? So we're just as good as the name brands, but we can sell to you cheaper because we don't do any marketing and we don't have any fancy labels. How many contractors would have to describe their business the same way? I'm just like the other guys, but I can do it cheaper for you, right? How about, I don't know, just in general, have you looked at their staff? Maybe they need some fancy labels, right? How many consumers that buy on price are actually thinking about who's going to be there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when their 12-year-old daughter gets off the school bus? Maybe what we have to do is we have to show that we're different, that we stand out in the crowd, right? If we're only going to be a commodity just like everybody else, then unfortunately maybe it's going to have to be low price that differentiates our business. We've got to do something about that perhaps. There's also a shortage of skilled workers. I found these statistics and I thought they were pretty interesting. According to this study, the 2013 5-Year America Community Survey, 39 is the median age of carpet, tile, and flooring installers. 39. Holy cow. I mean, think about it. As we grow in our careers, many people move up into middle management and management positions. So if the average age right now is 39 of tile installers, where's the next generation going to come from? And who's getting them ready? Who's preparing them with the skills, the right attitudes and behaviors that the industry is going to need, that your business is going to need? 47 is the median age for construction managers. How about this? This younger generation, the Generation Y, they want to move forward. They want to move forward quickly. Some of us have a challenge with that, and others maybe are taking advantage of that. But do you think they really want to wait till they're 47 to become a manager? My goodness, maybe that's something else that we need to talk about. What can we do different about that? I would also suggest that, certainly at least in my opinion, I think the construction industry in general has a lack of forward-thinking leadership and management. Now, there's certainly some good. I don't want to put it down completely, but I think there's great opportunity to improve on that. I think the industry has been complacent. If we think about it, what about the government regulations? The EPA came up with the RRP rule, for those of you maybe not familiar with the lead paint rule, right? So any property built prior to 1978 may have lead paint in it, and that can be challenging, right? If the lead paint causes health issues with the workers as well as the inhabitants of that property. So the industry complained about the rule that the EPA made, but you know what? Where was the industry in terms of taking care of that problem themselves? Why wasn't the industry taking care of the workers? Right? So where was the forward-thinking leadership to prevent that? What about developing a workforce? Where is the leadership in our industry creating the future workers that we're all going to need? If you think the problem is bad today, what do you think it's going to be like 10 years from now? The younger generation is not getting into the trades. And here's the sad part. I know at least in the Boston area, a good lead carpenter, in 6 to 10 years, you can go from being floor sweeper to a really good lead carpenter managing projects, and you can be making $80,000, $90,000 a year plus benefits. There's plenty of business owners that aren't making that much money. There is great opportunity within our industry for this younger generation. And how many of them go to college and then have all those loans when they get out? You can become a lead carpenter getting paid along the way and have no loans to have to pay for. There's huge opportunity, but we don't have leadership looking forward into these things for us. I think too many business owners also, as a result of the recession that we just went through, they fell into what I would call a survival mentality. If you're still there, I think it's time to get out of that. Unfortunately, I think a lot of them cut cost versus investing in growth, and they're still stuck with the idea, I've got to cut my costs, I've got to cut my costs. When are we going to start investing in growth going forward? But how about this, though? Leadership, right? Leadership comes down to those people that are running our country, too, right? Guiding us, the people that we elect, right? So if we think about that, right, how are we going to invest in the future if our leadership isn't also helping us? How many of you feel that this economy is going to keep getting better? How many? Raise your hands if you feel the economy is going to keep getting better. I don't know. I'm seeing about maybe 4 or 5 hands in the entire room. Let's think about that. We maybe perhaps need to do something about it. Who will be the future leaders of our country? Who will be the future leaders within our industry? I also think that one of the challenges that we have is, unfortunately, due to the recession, a lot of employees were treated like commodities. Right? Think about it. There were more people looking for jobs than there were jobs available. I think that was a bad situation for the employees, and I think, unfortunately, maybe some of the employers are still stuck in that commodity mentality, thinking about just, if that person doesn't work out, I can just replace them. I mean, that's not very green, is it? You're throwing employees into the dumpster, maybe because they don't have the skills you need for what your business needs to do today, what your business needs to do tomorrow. So I think we need to look at that leadership situation in our industry. Also, government regulations. What are we going to do about government regulations? First off, silica. I got to imagine for the industry that you all participate in, silica is going to be a big deal. The products that you're using, that you're cutting, that you're finishing, they contain silica. How many of you are already good to go to be in compliance with the OSHA standards for silica? How many people in the rooms, their businesses are good to go? Not many. How are we going to get ready for that, right? And at the same time, again, wasn't silica around forever as a health hazard? Why hasn't the industry perhaps already done something about that? Of course, we have the RRP rule, the lead paint rule, the OSHA standards that have to be followed as well. And then the big one, another big one today, is worker misclassification. The 1099 worker, instead of hiring employees, we treat workers as 1099s. There's a big challenge with that today. Be really careful in your business. Make sure you understand how to properly use subcontractors. Otherwise, if the government comes in, can certainly be some challenges to you. All right, how about integrity as a business opportunity? Now, people, when they think of integrity, we think of honesty, and certainly that's part of the definition of integrity. Today, what I'd like you to think about, though, is that part of the definition that talks about soundness and completeness of something. Right? So I put the Boy Scout up there. I was a Boy Scout myself, and I learned a lot in Boy Scouts. I still use a lot of what I learned way back then today and every day, things I teach my children as well. But we think of Boy Scouts as being honest, and I hope so, right? I think that's one of the things that, that organization strives for. But they also strive for soundness and completeness. Thinking ahead about what you do and being prepared. Be prepared. That's the motto of the Boy Scouts. So I'm asking you to think about it in terms of your business, right? Look at the gears we have here. Are the different systems within your business meshing together with integrity so they all work? Right? Here's something to think about. Do you have systems in your business, or do you have a business system? Right? Are the systems actually properly interacting with each other? Are they interdependent? Or are they great standing alone, but they aren't necessarily working together within the business? How many of you can do an estimate to sell the job, but if you sold the job, you have to do another estimate in order to order the materials? You might want to think about that, right? Is the integrity of the process actually working? Bringing those pieces together, right? So a soundness, a completeness of the business. I think as an opportunity, integrity can make a big difference in your business. But here's the thing. We have to define and commit to what it takes to create a successful business based on integrity. Define it. What is it that you're going to do to bring integrity into your business? So how about this then? What about the marketing that you're doing? Are you getting the right leads that you would like to have? How many people in the room here would say that the majority of the work that they do and that they get comes from repeat and referral business? How many people would say that? Good. All right. Here's something interesting to think about repeat and referral business. It's really good, right, to get it. But is the integrity there? So let me ask you to think about this. Have you ever worked for a customer that like just beat you up on price just so you could sell the job? You ever had one of those? And even though you've got a written agreement that includes a payment schedule for when they're supposed to pay you, it's like pulling teeth trying to get the money out of them. Have you ever had customers that are trying to squeeze a little bit out of you for free at the end of the job? They don't want to have to pay for it? Who do those people hang around with? Who do those kind of people hang around with? Other people just like them? So are those the people you're going to get referrals to? If you don't like the customers you have right now, is there really integrity in the marketing you're doing if you rely on referrals but you don't necessarily like who you're working with? Or how about this? Is it really the kind of customer you would have liked to have? Right, just think about that in terms of integrity inside your business. So if you're going to build integrity into your business, decide what are the things you can do yourself, right? But on the other hand, what kind of help are you going to need to help you get there? Right? How many people? Again, my goal today is to help, not to point out bad things, right? So how about this? Just one simple thing. How many people in the room actually know how to figure out what markup to use to sell the work? You've done it, with the math. How many people in the room know that formula for figuring out what markup your business needs to use? So again, I'm seeing maybe a half a dozen hands, well, maybe a little bit more, maybe 10 to 12 hands. Think about it. The rest of you, do you know what that's called when you guess at your pricing? It's called the WAG. Does anybody know what the WAG is? The wild ass guess. Right? Does your business really have integrity if you don't even know how to figure out what you should charge for the work you do? Right? Did you wait till April 15th? Well, now this year it's April 18th. Did you wait till April 18th to file your taxes to find out whether you made or you lost money last year as a whole? Does the business really have integrity if you can't measure that piece? Right? So here's the thing then. If you have integrity, set the example. Live the example of integrity, because isn't the younger generation watching us? Isn't the younger generation looking to see how we do it? Maybe they're going to copy what we do. But here's the other thing about the younger generation. They're also going to figure out what's the best way to do it. They know how to research. They've got that handheld device in their hand. They can ask any question they want, and they can find the good ways of doing things. And then they'll check social media, see what other people are saying, and see if it makes sense, right, before they go along with it, right? So how about this? Would the younger generation figure out pretty quickly that maybe you don't know how to properly price your work? That's part of the risk I think we have going forward with this new generation, the technology we have, and the way that they think today. Right? You might want to get integrity in place inside your business before they figure out maybe that you don't have that integrity. I think when you have a reputation for integrity and trust with your employees, you get these benefits. You trust them and they trust you. Right? Because if you always live up to your word, you always follow through on what you're going to say, I think that they like that they can count on that. The working environment is not adversarial. People actually like working with you. They get along with you. How about this? Think about this. If one of your workers today introduced themselves, right, to me today, what would they say? Would they say that they work with you or that they work for you? Think about that for a second. What would your workers say? Would they say they work for you or would they work with you? And which one would you rather that they be saying? Right? Think about the integrity side of that. How about there's real empowerment for your employees, a feeling of connection with the business because there's integrity. They know when they make decisions how to make them because there's standards by how we do what we do because the business has integrity. I think then these people in an environment like that, because I experienced that. That's what I had when I had my remodeling business before I sold it. Commitment and creativity became an extreme competitive advantage for my business. And here's the thing, because that existed, I was able to create what I would call an employee-managed business where I didn't work there at all. The employees ran the business, but in order for that to happen, I had to have unconditional trust in my employees. I had to set the stage for that. I had to set the example first, and then I had to maintain that unconditional trust. If somebody violated it, they couldn't be part of the team anymore. Yes, people make mistakes, don't get me wrong. But when people purposely violate the integrity of the business, my feeling was they had to go right away. I had to set an example for the rest of the team that that would not be tolerated, including I had to set the example that the rest of the team would be protected because they had integrity in what they did. I think then, therefore, what I saw was it fostered employee retention. When I sold my business, those same people are there today. I sold it in 2004, so figure, 12 years later, those same employees are there, except for a few who retired. But here's the thing, that business had integrity in terms of maybe a retirement plan, so we could offer it to the workers that gave us their whole career, so that they could actually retire and have a good life, right? I think that integrity can be a huge advantage for businesses. All right, current industry challenges. The ability to discipline yourself to delay gratification in the short term in order to enjoy greater rewards in the long term is the indispensable prerequisite for success. That's by Brian Tracy. That's what I'm asking you to think about, is thinking long term, not just short term, not just tomorrow's problems. Now here's the thing, I certainly got to recognize tomorrow can be challenging for every one of our businesses, right? Challenges happen on a day-to-day basis. But are we stuck just dealing with today and tomorrow's problems instead of thinking about the future and how about preventing problems? How about getting ready for the problems that are going to come as you grow your business, as your business moves through growth stages? Are you ready for that? Are you even aware of perhaps what might be coming? Right, so my thought is, how should you be looking at things today in order to be ready for what you want for a business tomorrow? So here's something I introduced to one of my daughters, and I thought it worked really well, and I use it a lot with the contractors I do coaching with. It's what I call the flywheel effect. How many people read Good to Great, the book Good to Great? Yeah, so maybe you'll remember the flywheel concept in Good to Great. Right, so think about a flywheel. Your vehicle has a flywheel typically. That flywheel, heavy round object, right? And so we get on the highway, and when we hit the gas, and we're really revving the gas up to get up to speed to get on the highway from the on-ramp, right? We're getting that flywheel spinning, and it takes a lot of energy to get that flywheel spinning, get it up to speed. But you ever notice when you get on the highway and you're doing about 60, 65 miles an hour, you can take your foot back off the gas, use very little gas, and the vehicle just keeps cruising along? Right? That's because of the flywheel. You invested the energy into that flywheel, and that energy, right, in the mass of the flywheel, think of the mass of your business. All of those things that got the flywheel going have been invested into it, and it almost spins on its own. Right? That's how I'm asking you to maybe think about this. You're going to have to do all those little pushes, right? Because there's not one push that gets the flywheel up to speed. It's all the pushes that get the flywheel up to speed. So it takes a lot of effort to get your business up to that optimum operating speed, right, by thinking about the flywheel concept, right? But with maintenance and regular pushes now and then, it maintains that speed. But how about this? If you let your flywheel stop, your business flywheel stop, how many pushes does it take to get it going the second time? Just as many as the first time? Right, so we got to think about that, right? Does the day-to-day get in front of us and prevent us from keeping the flywheel going, and before we know it, it's stopped or it's slowed way down, and we got to put all the energy back into it again? Right? It's like with marketing. How many contractors do I know that they get a nice big job or a good amount of work sold, so they cut back on the marketing, and then after they get the work almost all done, they're like, what the heck am I going to do next? I got to get going on the marketing. Keep the flywheel going all the time. That's what I would say would be a piece that contributes to integrity within your business. Here's an interesting concept. Is anybody aware of the positive deviance out there? Anybody aware of that theory, the positive deviant theory? Now, I was introduced to this about 15 years ago, and I think it's brilliant to be aware of it. All right, so positive deviants. Positive deviants are those people around us that do things completely different than the mainstream. Right? Sometimes they even go against social norms. They do things completely different. People might even say, "Oh, you can't do that." Right? That's like that's like telling a positive deviant you should do it when you tell them that they shouldn't do it. So positive deviants are the ones who get dramatically different results than the most of the rest of society. And you know what? They're in the same places, they're using the same raw materials, they have the same education available to them as the rest of society, but there's something about positive deviants that make them jump out and stand out from the rest of the crowd. They're able to get results out of certain situations where others would just give up. Here's the interesting thing about positive deviants, right? Only about 1% of our population are positive deviants. Only about 1%. About 30% of our population have in some way or another figured out this positive deviance, like they watch, right? What are these other people doing that's working really well and that maybe I can do that too, right? So instead of being a commodity, you find a new way of doing things and you watch the positive deviance for new ways to differentiate yourself, right? So that's about 30% of the population. About 70% of the population are traditionalist. They do the same thing over and over again because that's the way they always did it and they ain't about to change. They're traditionalist, right? So 70% of business owners are just not going to get anywhere. Does anybody know what the failure rate is in the construction industry for contracting businesses? Does anybody know that failure rate? It's about 50% within 5 years, and 90% of contractors go out of business within 10 years. I would suggest to you the majority of those are traditionalists, right? They just don't think about or even want to entertain the idea of doing something different than the way they're already doing it. All right? So I'm asking you to think about, watch for those positive deviants. Maybe there's positive deviants in the room, but here's the thing I'm going to tell you. There's positive deviants at this show, right? Whether they're on the show floor, people you can network with, maybe some of the instructors that are going to be doing the educational programs. There's positive deviants out there. How about if you want to be different, if you don't want to be a commodity, how can you find the positive deviants? See what they're doing, then how about this? Maybe you should subscribe to their blog. Maybe you should find out what they've been writing. Do they have a book? Do they have some content available out there in the industry magazines? What are they talking about? What are the kind of things that maybe you can do and do differently than you're doing right now? So think about it. If you want to take advantage of the challenges in the industry, watch for the positive deviants because they're already figuring out ways to do that. All right, so let's start addressing some things. So how about this? Could you use targeting to help address that commodity mentality where people buy just on price? Right, so if you think about it, right, targeting. Who's the ideal customer type for your business and why? What about the project types that you should be doing? What about the geographic locations? Where should you be doing these things? I've got a target up on the screen, that piece of paper right there. Here's the thing, right? If you hit that piece of paper, that paper target, you get points. As long as you hit the paper, you get points. But would you be okay getting 50 points every time, whereas if you hit the middle, you could get 500 points? So what kind of customers do you want? What kind of jobs do you want? Do you want the 50 pointers or do you want the 500 pointers? Are you waiting for the phone to ring and see is that a 500 or is that a 50? Or are you doing the marketing that's more likely to bring you in the 500s? How about your sales process? Can you help people find the value in what you do? Will they be willing to pay more for it? Or do they like the value you provide them and then they share that information with the next guy so they can get it cheaper? Does your process have integrity, or are you giving away free consulting hoping you're going to get the job and maybe somebody else benefits from that information, right? Thinking about how are you going to do that. So let's just take, for instance, project types. I think it's an ideal situation for those who are involved in the coverings part of the industry, right? Tile and stone, in my opinion, became much less of a commodity when creative talent became desirable. I don't have the creative talent. That's one of the things I figured out early in my career. I'm not a designer and I shouldn't be, right? If the whole world was brown, Shawn could be a designer. I gave up on that. I smartened up, and I brought in professionals in my business when I had that business to do the design side of things. And I think that's a huge opportunity today in the tile and covering industry. If you think about that, what about the products? I'm asking you to think about, are you installing tile or are you creating art? Are the customers that are calling you, are they looking just for tile or stone, or are they looking for something different? Are they looking for art? Are they looking to make a statement about their lives? Is there a certain purpose behind the work that they want to do and why? How about this? How many of you ask your prospect when you visit with them, how many of you ask them why they want to do their project? How many people ask why? Again, I'm only like seeing 3 or 4 hands. There's the positive deviance maybe in the room, right? I haven't met you yet, so that's a stretch to make that decision. But think about that. If you haven't even asked them why, how are you differentiating yourself? It's so simple to do that. Here's one more to think about. How many of you actually ask your prospect how they plan on making their decision? Again, only a couple. How could you help them make a decision if you don't even ask them how they're going to make their decision? Think about that. Does your sales process really have integrity if you don't know why they want to do it and you don't know how they're going to make a decision about what they're going to do and not going to do? How simple is that to just incorporate those pieces into what you do? Are you installing tile or are you designing solutions for these people? If you know why they want to do it, it's more likely what you suggest to them is going to be a solution for the problem they're bringing to you. Or how about this? Maybe they're bringing an opportunity to you as well. Maybe there's something that they want to do. They're looking for your help to come up with a solution. Maybe you can differentiate yourself in the market that way. 2 main purposes, I think, for your marketing then, if you want to stand out, get away from that commodity mentality. 2 purposes are getting found and converting sales. Yes, you can get found, and maybe that's a lead to you, but is it a qualified lead? Is it the right kind of customer with the right kind of project in the areas that you do want to be working in? So use what I would call strategic content to educate and qualify your prospects, what I call lead nurturing. Yes, maybe SEO on your website so they can find you if they're looking for information about certain products or installation or design ideas. Great, they can find you, but can you also then educate them on what they need to do next? Like, what is the process? What do they need to think about before they call you? What do they need to go and look at before they can actually make decisions about products? Right? Maybe that's part of what you can do to help differentiate yourself. So how about this? Decide and explain how you're going to do business and why you do business that way. How many people here actually charge for designs? Nobody? A few? That's definitely one way to differentiate yourself. So here's the thing, though. If you charge for designs, do you have the guts to also say that those designs are yours until they sign a contract for the construction part of the project? What are you selling? Are you selling the design, or are you selling your knowledge and your talent? Are you willing to give it away so some other installer can use it? Maybe that's something to think about, right? And if you don't know how to do it now because your schema tells you that's impossible, there are people in the room who raised their hands and said they're doing it, right? So it can be done. Maybe you just have to find the right resources to help you get there. How about in your marketing, use third-party endorsements to confirm that the things that you're saying are true? Right? You can say whatever you want on your website or your marketing, but are people going to believe it? But if you can get others who have experience, others who have had schema actually interacting with you and your team, with your company, with the integrity that comes with working with you. If they've already experienced that, how about taking advantage of what they have to say so others maybe will believe that it's true as well? Be different in the same way every day. How about this? Don't you just know when you go to McDonald's that in about a half an hour you're going to have a stomachache? Don't you just know? It's like a given. And you still go? Maybe not all of you, right? But a good number of us go because you know what? We get the same exact thing every time we go there. The same number of pickles are on that cheeseburger every time you get it. And at McDonald's, you have to actually go to school to learn how to do the hamburgers. And if you change the recipe, they take your franchise away from you. You can't change the recipe. You put 2 pickles on them. Just recently, somebody told me that they laughed like heck, but they said one of their buddies, they stopped at McDonald's, they got a burger, they were upset, turn around, I'm going back, they put the pickles under the burger instead of on top of the burger. I don't want the burger, right? How about this? If you have integrity, your business does business in a certain way, and you do it that same way over and over again, here's the thing. When people come back to you and they get the same experience they had last time because they liked it, you confirm with them that they're in the right place. When they refer you to their friends or their relatives or whatever, their coworkers. But how about this? What if that coworker has a different experience than what their friend told them they would have if they called you? I'm suggesting that it needs to be consistent. How about this? If you're thinking about adding salespeople as you grow, are they going to sell different than you? So your previous customers, when you send your new salesperson to your previous customer, they don't want to buy from them anymore because it's different? That's what you think about, right? How can you serve your marketplace but do it in a consistent way, right? A way that has integrity. 2 simple things I think you can do today, right on the show floor. These are things that you can do today to help you out. The first one, I think check out the School of Art Institute of Chicago, right? They have a tiled bench exhibit happening at the show. Check it out, right? Students from the school. Now, first off, you might find a student that might be a good employee, right? That's something to check out. But students are putting together benches and they're using different products and methods. The design of the bench itself on top of the products they're going to use and how do they use those products. So think of it. Think of how you're mixing those together, creating a solution that is also art, taking advantage of the tools, the technologies, and the materials that are available today. So it's not just a tile bench inside the shower, maybe. It's a solution for certain people. Some people need that maybe because they have health challenges. How about it's a solution to certain people because maybe the way they want to feel when they get inside the shower, right? They're treating themselves with the project that they're doing. Check it out down there. You might just become inspired, something you could do differently. Also, here's one that I would suggest that you take advantage of. When you're down on the show floor, talk to the exhibitors, right? And unfortunately, I see sometimes like, how do you cut that thing? How do you install it? Maybe that's all valuable information, don't get me wrong. But how about this? What if you just ask them, how have their products been used by other contractors, by other retailers to become solutions for certain customers? How can that certain broad product or that brand be a solution that stands out as a much better option than another, right? You might sell many options. So what are the unique differences about each one so that when you suggest a certain manufacturer, a certain product to the customer, how does that product become a solution? And remember, you got to ask them why they wanted to do it to begin with in order to know which one to recommend to them. Take advantage of that today, right at the show floor. Here's what I've found when I've done this at other events. The exhibitors are like, where the heck did all these people come from? All those questions I was getting, very intelligent questions, right? I think that it would show maybe how you're different as well. If you want to get the attention, some extra help maybe even after the show from those reps, show them that difference, right? That you're trying to use their product in a way very different maybe than the traditionalist. That's 70% of businesses out there. All right, here's an interesting one to consider. We've got to get the right talent into our industry, and how about this? We've got to get the right talent into your businesses. So how about thinking about it this way? We can go 2 ways with this image up here. We can go clockwise, and we can go counterclockwise. Let's check it out. Let's go clockwise first. So you start a business with goals, right? What do you want that business to do for you? How about for your employees, for your customers, for the community that you do business in? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to do? How many of you have a goal maybe of retirement earlier than the 65? How many of you? Yeah, me too. That's what I would like to do, right? So maybe that's your goal. How many of you maybe, here's what one of my clients said, right? He finally started making money. I teached him how to figure out what he needed to charge, and all of a sudden he had the guts to charge it because he knew he had to get it, right? And if he didn't ask for that price, he knew he was like contributing some of his own money to the job. So all of a sudden he's making money, right? Great time of the year for me is January because a lot of my clients, we go over their financials for the year and how everything went and everything and think about what we're going to do for the new year. So it's great when they've made changes and they're making money. So you know what he said to me? I said to him, well, do you have goals then for the new year? He goes, yeah, I got short-term, long-term, and 10-year goals, he says. You want to hear him? And one of his goals was that he wants in the next 3 years to save enough money to send his 2 oldest children to college. And in the next 3 years after that, he wants to save enough money to send his other 2 children to college. Have all that money saved in the next, say, maybe 6 to 7 years. Already done. Goals. What do you want to accomplish? So if we have goals, then I would suggest what we've got to do is we've got to set standards. How are we going to measure whether we're getting there or not, right? So maybe I have to have a financial budget for myself personally, but also for my business. Maybe I have to look at what is it going to cost me to run this business 2 years from now when I change the infrastructure, when I change my organizational chart and bring in more people. How about a standard might be writing job descriptions? What I know of contractors is the majority of them don't have job descriptions at all. They don't, for themselves or for any of their employees. And a good number of them that have job descriptions, those job descriptions describe the person they already hired instead of maybe the person they should have hired. So how about a job description? If you think about really, who do I need, what kind of skills should they have, and what kind of profile should they have? How about the integrity side, the honesty side? Right? What about skills? Remember when social skills weren't using your thumbs? Remember that, when you actually had to learn to talk to a human being? How many of you maybe have employees that you've told if somebody talks to you, don't talk to them, refer them to me, I don't want you talking to anybody? Is that really a good thing for your business, that you have to take care of all that stuff, right? So maybe we got to get the right people on board, right? So we create standards. And if we have standards for our business, the standards we're going to use to make sure we're heading and going to reach our goals, then what we can do is we can use those standards to make sure we hire the right people to interact with our customers, the right employees, right? We want to get good employees. And then how about this? How many people in the room like to be supervised? Raise your hand if you like to be supervised. So a couple, yeah, right? So how about this though? If not too many people like to be supervised, what kind of managers should we be hiring? Supervisors? How about this? Mentors. People who are going to help your employees move along and grow into the roles that they're going to have to fill, or you're going to have to fill as your business grows. How about to free you up so you don't necessarily have to be involved in everything day to day, hands-on into everything in your business? Can we find managers who can inspire the employees to do the right thing and maintain that integrity inside our business? And if we do all that, then we achieve our business goals. But how about this? How about if we went the opposite way? What if we start out, right, after having our goals, what if we start out with compromised management? The wrong management, right? How about this? One of my employees told me when I had my business that his first day out of high school, he went to a technical high school. His first day out of high school, he started working in a countertop factory, making laminate countertops, and he messed up a countertop. So his boss came over to him and said, hey, can I talk to you for a minute outside? So picture this. He takes him out of the shop, outside on the back stoop of the warehouse, and he says, hey, you messed up the top, huh? He goes, yeah. Sucker punches him in the stomach and says, don't you ever do that again or you're fired. True story. So he quit, right? He said that was it. He wasn't going to tolerate that. But what is the example being set by the management in the construction industry right now for the workers that are coming in? Are these young guys and gals thinking, oh, I got to get my sucker punched down if I want to be management someday? Right? True story, a little sensational, but what is the example that's being set for these workers? Right? If we think about it, unfortunately, sometimes out in the field, do the workers get berated for making a mistake, embarrass them in front of all the employees, as other employees, as a way to make sure that maybe they won't do that again? Make them think twice. You know, I might want to think about what I do, because if I don't do it right, I might get berated in front of everybody. Is that really a good culture to have within the business? Right? So let's think, if we start out with compromised management, right? Is any of you familiar with the frog soup analogy? Have you ever heard of that, the frog soup analogy? Frog soup. So you take a pot of cold water and you put it on the cooktop, right? And you put a live frog in there, and then you turn the heat on. And the water slowly warms up, right? And, maybe, like sitting in a hot tub for a little while. The frog doesn't even realize it's happening, right? He passes out. Next thing you know, the water's boiling and the frog is soup. And then you're saying to yourself, you know what? There's not enough meat in this soup. I need a little more protein in this soup. What's going to happen when you throw a live frog into the boiling soup? What's going to happen? You're going to jump out, right? That's the frog soup analogy. You didn't even know it was happening, right? Before you even realized it, right, you were soup. But then the challenge is, what's going to happen when I try to bring new people in? So let's think about it. If I start off with compromised management, maybe I bring in some, young help, and they're with us for a good number of years, and how about they think the way we manage is normal? Right? They just think, because they don't know anything different, right? It's frog soup. It just happens so slowly, they don't even know it's different. And then what's going to happen if you convince a new worker to come in, and the first day at the job, he gets sucker punched in the stomach for doing something wrong? Isn't he going to want to jump out of the soup? Right? If you can even convince them to come, what's going to happen when they realize what's really going on inside of the business? How many construction businesses just have constant turnover? Right? What kind of people stay at a company like that? You know what one person said when I asked that question? He said the employees who are already cooked, those are the ones that are going to stay. Right? Think about that, right? And if we got the wrong people, do we drop our standards to meet the people we have? I don't know, up in the Northeast, and what I've noticed around here, the finishes are drywall, smooth drywall everywhere. But if you get down to Florida, you know it's like it's that knockdown finish? Like orange peel finish. You know why they do that? Because they don't have the talent down there to do the smooth work. They don't have enough of it. And they don't want to invest in the workforce to train them how to do that. It's just easier and quicker to change the standard of what's acceptable to what we can produce with the workers that we have available. How many businesses compromise what they're delivering, what their potential is for the future because of the help that they've kept? Maybe because of the example that they've set for them. So I'm asking you to think, if we're talking about all these things that you can do, right? All these challenges in the industry that you can turn into opportunities, you've got to have the right people working with you, the right situation set up so that it can happen. So those people are inspired to be part of it. Because is it going to be easy all the time? No, it's not going to be easy all the time. So what can we do to attract those people to want to be at your business? To then, once they're there, want to stay and be part of it? And how about this? Once they're there and they're part of it, that they also want to be part of bringing new people in and giving them the same kind of opportunities, perhaps, that you gave to those employees as you started your business, as you got it going? Can you be the one setting that example? All right, so we need new people in the industry. So how about thinking about the difference between hiring and recruiting? Hiring and recruiting. Hiring is kind of like, I'm sorry, we don't have any openings right now, right? Until there's an opening, you're not looking. And then when you're looking, are you looking because you already need somebody? I need them now? Versus how about recruiting? When we're recruiting, we're looking all the time. Even if we're not ready to hire somebody, we're looking all the time, right? The idea is we're always looking for talented people to join our team. Think of it like marketing. First off, if you find a better employee, you can replace maybe an employee you have if they're really not working out, right? The wrong person to invest in. But how about this? What if an opportunity jumped in front of you and you weren't quite ready for it 100%, but it was really a good employee? I had one of my clients, a kitchen and bath contractor, remodeling contractor, a salesperson. Opportunity came up, young woman, unbelievable, very smart, talented person, design-wise and selling. Imagine a designer that can actually sell too, right? This person was very good. He jumped on that opportunity. What did that do? It stimulated a lot of other things he needed to in his business in order to take advantage of that opportunity, right? So think about the difference, perhaps, between hiring and recruiting. How about give the right employees reason to stay? Here's the things that I found. Money is a good thing, right, to attract and keep employees. But if an employee comes to you for money, aren't they just as likely to leave for money and go somewhere else? Right? So yes, money is going to be important. But here are the other things that I found very important. First off, help them feel part of something bigger than themselves. That, in other words, by coming to work, they're part of something bigger where they can contribute. And their unique piece, their talents, add up to the whole, right? The integrity of the business. The business needs all those little pieces, right? And different talents with different people. How many of you in the room as business owners are just good at everything? It's not typical, right? I admitted earlier I was terrible at design. I need to bring employees that have that talent. They become part of the bigger picture. So giving them that vision of the bigger picture. How about give them a sense of purpose? One of the things I found in my business and with a lot of contractors, right, their employees consider themselves to be nail bangers. I hate that when I hear a carpenter say, I'm a nail banger. To me, that's just sounds derogatory. What I tried to help my employees understand was with their hands, with their head, they change people's lives, right? How it is to live through the project, right? The way they interact with the customer during the project as the construction happens. How about with what they do with their hands, they change people's lives, how they use their homes, right? How they're going to use that bathroom. How about that physically challenged person that we get the opportunity to create a project for them that changes their lives and how they get to use their home, right? We change maybe the quality of their life through what we do. So helping employees realize they're not just installing tile, they're not just nailing studs, right? They're changing people's lives with what they do, and then they become part of something. How about provide career paths for your employees? How many of you right now actually have defined career paths for employees that come into your business and they can move through the business? Have defined career paths? I'm not seeing anybody. That I would suggest, and that's a huge opportunity. Not a thing to point out that you're not doing yet. and make you bad, right? What is the opportunity? How about this? If you've got a good person at your team, how are you going to keep them, right? Because if they want to earn more money, because they want to have a family, some children, mortgage, right, own a house and have that mortgage they want to pay for, how are they going to earn more money at your business if you don't provide the opportunity of a career path? Maybe the direction, giving them the direction, the steps on how to do it, to get there. The other one I found was benefits. Benefits they might not find elsewhere. Here's the thing I'm thinking, right? I mean, what does a family health plan cost right now? How much? 15 grand a year, depending on what kind of deductibles you have, and that might be inexpensive compared to some other plans. Sure, you can get less expensive, but like, what are your deductibles going to be when something happens to you, right? But imagine, how about you hire some good people? How about you hire a guy that's already got 2 kids, right? Happy family at home, and he's got a mortgage and a vehicle he's got to pay for. If you give that guy health insurance, do you think he's going to quit? He's getting good pay and he's got a family health plan. Where is he going to find another contractor to go to work for that offers a family health plan to the employees? It's kind of rare in the construction industry. But here's the thing, don't you have to find the right customers and sell the right kind of projects in order to have the right amount of money to be able to offer those kind of benefits to your employees? We're back to integrity again. Right? If you're not getting the right customers, you're not doing the right types of projects where you can get the money, the margins you need to be able to afford to offer your employees those kind of benefits, and maybe you should be looking at the opportunities you have to bring more integrity inside your business. What about dealing with government regulations? Now, there's not a whole lot we can do about that, right? The government's the government. But you know what? We can also look at it and say, individually, what can I do for me, for my business, for my employees, my customers, as it relates to those government regulations? Right? So they definitely add costs. They're often created by people who have good intentions but lack schema for our industry. Right? Lack schema for what we do and how we do it, what's practical, what's not practical. Enforcements and fines are increasing. The government is challenged. It needs money. It's so easy to find money in the construction industry because there's so much violation against the regulations that as an industry we're supposed to be conforming to. Here's the thing too, if you're accused, you're going to be assumed guilty until you prove yourself innocent. Right? Isn't the American way supposed to be you're innocent until you're proven guilty? As a business, if they decide you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent, right? So how about just misclassification of workers, right? You called them 1099s and the government says, nope, they're not 1099s, they're employees. So now you have to pay all the back taxes, all the back workers' comp, and all the fines that go with that. And you have to pay it not like, well, let's go to court first and see if I owe it. Nope, you have to pay it up, and then you have to go to court and see if you can get your money back, right? And here's the thing, though. It's enforced and judged by people who lack schema. Right? And think about this. Isn't it the same entity that's going to decide that they're going to accuse you of being guilty, and then it's the same government that's going to decide whether you're guilty or not? You might want to think about that, right, before you consider violating or ignoring the government regulations that are out there. So here's what I would suggest then. Maybe either decide to comply, or how about avoid things, right? Not avoid the regulations, avoid projects, right, that are affected by certain regulations. There are contractors who decided, you know what, I'm just not going to work on homes that were built prior to 1978 because I don't want to deal with the whole RRP lead rule. So they just stay away from them. But here's the thing. You can't wait for the phone to ring and hope that there's going to be somebody on the other end of the phone with a post-77 house. Right? You have to do marketing to cause that to happen. Back to the geographic thing there, right? So maybe you're going to market in areas where the homes are newer than 1977. Right? Again, thinking about the integrity of your business, how you do what you do in that business. So seek to understand the regulations. Sometimes they're not as difficult as what you really think. I do a lot, as they said in my introduction, I do a lot of training under the RRP rule. And there's a lot of contractors that come to my training that after they're done, they're going, you know what, this isn't as bad as what I thought it was. Right? How about understand the spirit behind the regulations of what you need to do? Maybe then you can find good ways of doing it economically, things that not only protect the homeowner, but how about protect the workers at the same time, and you can do it economically. Complying could actually be a competitive advantage for certain people. Are there people out there that are concerned about the health of their children? They're worried about lead paint, worried about silica dust inside their homes. How about some of the other products that we use inside the homes, right? The gases that certain chemicals give off, even paints, right? There's niches out there. Here's the thing. Does everybody in the marketplace want that or are looking for that? No, right? But if you do the right kind of marketing, there are plenty of customers. If you're the only one that does that out there, then maybe those people have to pay the right price to you to get that kind of service, right? Find those spots out there, right? Watch for the positive deviance. I also suggest that you support the right trade associations. Trade associations maybe are some of our better advantages in terms of addressing the regulations that affect our industry. So how would you support those associations? How many of you are actually members of some association in our industry? How many are members? All right, so a fair amount of you. Good. I would encourage others to think about it and get involved in those trade associations. What I found from my own experience is the more I gave, the more I actually got out of it, right? If you just go to take, you probably might not find it to be worth it, but you go and give and you get to meet people and network and things come back. That's what I found. And I belong to the National Association of the Remodeling Industry, and although I'd like to see them do more, I also realize that unfortunately their membership, think about this, there's about 6,000 members of NARI, National Association of the Remodeling Industry. There's over 1 million remodeling contractors in the United States. Think of the percentage of remodelers that actually join an association, right? The percentage of professionals within the construction industry. If more of us participated, more of us gave our dues, would there be more opportunity for those associations to assist us, maybe provide the schema needed to those people that are making the regulations that affect all of us in our businesses today? So that's something that perhaps we can do on more of a bigger picture scale, where the rest of these suggestions have been more just inside your business. My suggestion is become part of the solution. Rather than just complain about what's happening or not happening, how can we become part of it? It's frustrating, I'll tell you. I've been doing it for years, but you know what? I can also look back and see that there have been some changes. Fortunately, the efforts that I've made, other people have made, associations have made, have definitely made a difference. All right, so here's a summary. We're going to wrap things up, and then I'd like to take some questions if folks have some questions for us today. And I'm a firstborn. How many other people in the room are firstborn individuals? How many of you? Okay, so fair number of us. Right, so you probably noticed I'm kind of opinionated about certain things, right? That's typical of a firstborn, and I have to be on time for things, right? That's just natural about me. So I'm going to be kind of straightforward about what I think maybe you could take advantage of from today's discussion, our keynote address today. How about become a forward-thinking leader, right? Instead of just thinking about tomorrow and the next day, and those are all things that have to be thought about, don't get me wrong. But how about, are you really thinking about where you want to be 10 years from now and how you're going to get there? For those of you that said maybe you want to retire early, right, in a younger age, what are the things that you're going to have to make sure are happening? What are the milestones along the path that as a forward-thinking leader you're going to look into? And definitely create more leadership. Create a legacy of leadership within your team so somebody else can step in and take over for you, and perhaps you step aside as the leader in that business. Set up what you want to have happen or settle for what you get. That's one of my lines. You either set up what you want to have happen or you're going to have to settle for what you get. Think about that in terms of how you interact with employees, with customers, with vendors. Set up what you want to have happen or just accept the fact that you'll have to settle for what you get. How about decide you're either going to accept what has become, quote, normal, and I don't think we should be calling it that, but unfortunately that's how we look at it, the normal, what's happening today. Do some of you feel like we're living in a world of mediocre? Yeah, unfortunately, right? So either decide that you're going to accept that normal, or how about this? Could you become a positive deviant? Right? You don't have to be one of the 1%, but you could be part of that 30% that takes advantage of the things that the positive deviants are doing, watching for those examples, coming to shows like this to find those things. Remember that flywheel effect, right? Every little push makes a difference to get your business, right, the business flywheel going. But what are the pushes you should be working on? Where are the weak spots in your business that you should be working on? I can offer you this if you go to my website, ShawnMcCadden.com. I offer a business assessment sheet for contracting businesses. And you answer questions, yes or no. Can you do it or can you not do it? And it helps you assess the different areas in your business so you can decide where to work on. The key is to be in balance. The key isn't to be excellent at everything. It's to be good at everything as your business grows, right? And you can get closer to excellence as you grow. But here's the thing. If you're going to remain a smaller business, maybe you don't need to do all of those things. So where are the areas that your business is weak where there's opportunity for you to make improvements? Don't get excellent at production and not be able to sell, right? Because you'll burn through your work pretty quickly. Find the way, place balance, right? Integrity inside your business. And the last thing I would ask you to think about today is taking advantage of the show to find new ways to be different. The education that's going to be happening during the day today and throughout the show, and then on the show floor, when that show floor is open, to get out there, find what are the things that you can do to differentiate yourself in the marketplace. So I want to thank you for the opportunity. Can we open it up to questions? Do we have questions from the audience? One right here. Oh, there we go.
Thank you so much, Shawn,
You're welcome.
for a very nice presentation and very thought-provoking. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
I have two questions. There is a quote says, culture eats strategy for the breakfast.
So can you say that again? Culture?
Culture eats strategy for breakfast. So the thing is, there is a skilled labor shortage, and I need to find out how do we create a culture of performance, and how to create a funnel of, a pipeline of skilled labor so that people can engage with the purpose rather than the profits, and we can be different. Because I have seen people in my organization, I keep hiring and doing things and try to create leaders, but it is really challenging. I think long term, but most of the people, employees, they don't think long term. They keep switching the jobs, and we are losing employees to the competition for no reasons, even after providing the benefits. So I need your some comments so that I can improve my organization, all audience can be benefited. And thanks again once a lot. Once again.
You're welcome. Thanks for that question. Well, how about this? It's just not going to be easy anyway, no matter what. That's part of the challenge that we have. What I might suggest is perhaps what I called in my business a ladder of opportunity. In other words, how about could you define the career paths within your business, the stages and the steps, and share those with individuals and tie them together with their compensation? Right? I have, with my clients, I have a grid, what's called a pay grid. And what I want you to picture is down this side of the grid are the skills, the trade skills, broken into graduations. And those graduations might go from like starting out at $12 an hour as a sweeper up to a master installer, whatever terms you would use, right? That would be the maximum pay. And let's just say that's $25 an hour. So how do I move from $12 an hour up? What are the things I need to do? What are the skills I need to have, right? So that's just on the trade side. But we need leaders too, don't we? We need people to help us manage the work and interact with our customers and interact with other employees. So what I want you to picture is across that grid on the top are the responsibilities. How about we go from responsible for self, safety, and put my tools away and all that, to how about maybe ability to manage multiple projects at the same time, right? Keep the site safe as far as compliance to government regulations like OSHA and things like that. So the idea, here's what I want you to picture is, if you know what the level of trade skill this individual has and what the level of responsibility they're able to help you with, the intersecting point of those two things would be what you would be willing to pay them. Right? That will be a way to not only show them how they can grow through your business, but how they can increase their pay in measurable ways that are objective. I think that's part of the challenge of our industry is first off, most businesses don't have a review process in their business. And if it's a review, the person doing the reviewing has no idea what they're going to talk about until they get in there. What am I going to say to this guy? What am I going to talk to him about, right? But on the other hand, if we have career paths and we say, all right, what did we talk about at the last review? What were the things that you were supposed to do? And what were the things that the company said that they were going to do? So creating that career path. And here's something else that I would share with you that I learned really early in my career. And sometimes it's difficult to do, but I'm going to tell you right now, I found it worked for me, and I see it work for many other contractors. A speaker at an event, when I was sitting on the other side and I was sitting out in the tables like you are, he said one time, never carry an employee longer than his mother did. Think about that. How soon do we know we've got the wrong employee, but we don't deal with it? The devil we know sometimes is better than the devil we don't know, right? But how about this? If we get rid of those people, here's the thing. When you tolerate the turkeys, what does it say to your eagles? When the people that are in your business, right, that they're the ones that are performing for you, see that you're tolerating and keeping other employees, what message are they getting? Right? It's a difficult thing. We're back to the flywheel again, thinking about it, right? It's so difficult to get things going off the ground. All I can share with you is encouragement that if you go through the flywheel part and you get it going with all that energy that it took to get there, here's what I found at my business. We didn't have to advertise for new help anymore. The reputation in our community was there. Our workers shared what it was like to work with us. Our customers knew from our employees how much they liked working with us, and they would share that. And people were coming to us looking for jobs when we didn't have any jobs available, rather than we were out seeking people when we had a hole to fill. That's what I found. That it all takes time, but that's what I found worked well. I took one gentleman who was working at the gas station where I had a gas account for our vehicles. He said to me one day, he said, "Shawn, you know what? I can't pump gas forever. I want more out of my life. I don't know anything about carpentry, but I'm willing to learn. Would you give me a try?" He goes from floor sweeping at 22 years old. 6 years later, he's one of our best lead carpenters. He's married, he's got a kid, he's got one on the way, and he's got a house. Him and his wife have got a house in a 6-year period. The challenge is, though, you have to find the raw materials to start with. The key is, though, is if a few of them slip through that aren't the right ones, back to the don't carry them too long, right? Replace them and get another one. It might feel like you're slowing down your flywheel. Here's what I would ask you to think about. What you're doing is you're preventing your flywheel from slowing down. By getting rid of the bad people, you're putting your flywheel on hold till you get the right people, and then you can start moving on those little pushes again to get it going again. That's how I'd ask you to think about it. Don't think about it as you're slowing your flywheel down by making those changes. You're trying to keep your flywheel maintaining its existing momentum before you do something different. I don't know if that's 100% helpful for you, but that's what I found worked for me. From my schema, I can say that works. Thank you so much for your question. I appreciate it. Other questions that we might have this morning? There's one right here.
How you doing?
Doing well.
I guess my question is reason why I'm here is, in my opinion, like the cost and effect rule. So in other words, you know, with my business, we do very, very well. And I'm at that crossroads to where it's like, hey, do I get bigger or do I stay the same? Part of that challenge is how much do we put into marketing? Meaning if we're clearing $500,000 this year, if we want to do better, do we have to spend too much money to do better? And are we working for the sake of just working? So it all comes back to that, is the juice worth the squeeze type of theory. I guess, my question is, where does not just us, but everybody in here decide, when it is the right time to grow? And, if you are growing, you're dealing with a lot of different challenges, such as, the people you have, the leadership. Everybody wants to make money, and I'm all for everybody making money, but at the same time, if you're paying advertisers to bring more jobs in, if you're doing more jobs, you're getting more trucks, you're hiring more salespeople, you're doing all this, I guess when is that threshold? Because, like I said, we have a great business, we're doing very, very well. We had, a project that wanted to be done in downtown Pittsburgh, and they came to us and said, hey, can you do 39, condos for us? And I'm like, well, we can probably manage 18. I can't get 39 done in the time frame you want to do it. So, we're doing more high-end work and trying to, make that work, but at the same time, you have to hire more skilled people and more skilled labor. So, that's my question, and that's the reason, the whole reason why I'm here, because everything you're going over, I'm like, all right, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. I'm a positive deviant. We're good. But now, are we searching for more just for the sake of searching for more? And then when do you tell your employers, or your employees rather, hey, you're making top of your market, if you want more, we got to do more. And when is that threshold? When is it okay basically to be satisfied? Because I'm never satisfied, but I'm not going to drag everybody up the hill with me as well. So that's my question. Yep.
Well, you've asked a lot. What's your name?
I'm Tom Pogorski.
Tom, thank you. You've asked a lot, Tom, and unfortunately, we could have like a week-long engagement together, right, to talk about all those things. So here's what I would say. I think what you're describing is what I've come to know as Never Never Land, right? We're not talking Michael Jackson here, right? Never Never Land. That's that stage in growth when your business, and it happens quite often, Tom. That's the thing I got to tell you. It's going to happen like multiple times if you keep growing your business. It's not like you're going to get through it once and then you're all set. It happens at different growth stages of the business. Okay? So it's called Never Never Land. It's that stage where you say, geez, you know, if I had somebody in the office to help me out, right, I could sell more jobs because I wouldn't be doing all that administrative stuff, and they would even make my spelling look good, you know, when I write my proposals, right? If I had that person in the office, I could probably sell like another $500,000 worth of work, and I could have a couple of guys, more guys in the field, and another truck. But here's the thing, because I'm not already selling that extra $500,000 worth of work, it's really hard for me to afford and take the risk of putting that person in the office, right? Of adding that truck and those employees, right? And that's going to happen at multiple stages. And the next time it happens, it's like you're adding 2 trucks at a time when it happens. Or how about this? It's happening more frequently. You're adding another truck and another crew to do that, right? So that's what I would call dealing with Never Never Land. So here's the challenge with that is, the things that you're going to be up against, the arrows that are going to be shooting at you as your business grows, are going to be different at those different stages. So it's difficult for me to give you all of those. What I can offer you, if you email me, Shawn@ShawnMcCadden.com, I've got a growth stages outline that breaks out all of these different levels of growth for a construction business, right? Typical residential construction business I'm talking about. And it lets you know, like, what's coming, what should you expect, what should you get ready for, right? It helps you know those things, because here's the thing. Right? When your doctor tells you, hey, if you take this medication, you're going to get dizzy. When you take the medication, you get dizzy, you're like, no big deal, because he told you, right? But if you didn't know what was coming and they gave you that medication and you got dizzy, wouldn't you be like freaking out like something's going to happen to me? The thing is to think about, if you know what's coming, right, it's a little bit easy to deal with. I'm not going to tell you it's going to be 100% easy, but if you know that stuff is coming, you can get yourself ready for it. And then maybe you're not surprised when it gets there, and maybe you even know you've already stacked up the resources that you need to have put in place. You've already found them before you get there. So I think that can help tremendously. Email me, Shawn@ShawnMcCadden.com. Tell me what you're looking for. I'll just respond back and I'll send it to you so you have it, all right? And then there's one other thing you mentioned about the marketing. Here's what I'm going to suggest to you, kind of like big picture, is if you don't know why you're doing marketing, if you don't have a written plan and a way to measure whether it's working, like are you accomplishing why you're doing marketing, not just to get leads, like from who, for where, what kind of projects, right? So just those simple things. Here's the thing, if you don't have ways to measure, then the marketing money that you're spending is an expense. If you can measure it and things aren't working, aren't you going to stop doing those things and change it to something else? So if you're measuring the money you're investing in marketing, it becomes an investment instead of an expense to your business. That's what I see as a big mistake for a lot of business owners. They spend money on marketing, but they have no idea maybe why they're doing it. And here's the thing, you invest with an SEO person, yeah, they'll get you on first page of Google, but are you getting any work out of it? The measurement is supposed to be dollars of profit, not leads, right? That's what I'm asking you to think about, is how are you going to measure it so you know that that money's an investment? Right. So you're qualifying where your leads are coming from, right? The question you're asking, you say, in other words, you're asking these people when they come into your showroom, like, where do they find out about you, right? Do you ask them why they contacted you?
Yeah.
That's the important part. Yes, it's good. You want to know what was the lead source, like, so you know where you're spending your money, but is the marketing message, the message you wanted to get out there, is it working? So when you say to them, why did you contact us? Was there something about what you read on our website or that ad you saw that motivated you to come here, right? If they say it was a referral, what did that person say about you, your business, what you did that differentiated you? So is the marketing working? Is it differentiating you in the marketplace, or is it just that they're finding you and coming down and saying, can you do this for me? That's what I would suggest. So measuring, if you have a plan for what you want your marketing to accomplish, then make the measurements. Don't make the measurements first and then do a plan. You got to know what you want to accomplish so that you can put the metrics to it. What do I want to accomplish? That helpful?
Yeah, that's fair.
Very good. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. How are we doing on the time, Michelle? One more? We're good to go? All right. Well, I want to thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity of being here today. I hope I will see you again at a different event at a different time. And I appreciate the time that you gave me and to come here this morning, especially to get up this early in Chicago to make it here. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you.